Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, buongiorno, buonasera. Dzień dobry, dobry wieczór, i jak dela, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be, Jay Slater case. If I move my big fat head out of the way, you can see the chosen background would be the four friends of Jay Slater that went out to look for him. Well, four of the friends of Jay Slater that went out to look for him. Um, Apologies to, I think it's Paul Curry and Saul Wilkin, kind of chopped off their heads, but Jessica Ingham and Aaliyah, I think her name is Duxbury. Um, that's the chosen background because I am still intrigued by what these friends believe happened to Jay. I did notice on Facebook the other day that I believe Aaliyah Duxbury is still Facebook friends with Lucy May Law. I think Saul Wilkin is. They may all be. I don't know. Now, in my world, what I don't get in this situation is how someone like Lucy, who to my mind has clearly deceived a lot of people, covered up a lot of stuff, changed her story many times, and is obviously hiding something connected with the death of Jay Slater, I would say, how these friends of Jay can then still be such good friends with Lucy. It's almost like there's a conspiracy to all stick together in this, and we all now go with the accident narrative. And I'm just curious why that is. It wasn't that way early doors. These friends of Jay all said, correct me if I'm wrong, all said that they suspected foul play. The four young people you see here, these are your original conspiracy theorists and trolls because they were out there saying, I'm convinced, well, Lucy was too, I'm convinced he's being taken by someone. The whole kidnap and hostage thing. Here are the trolls and here are the conspiracy theorists that put all that out there. And I just wondered today what they think, why they all did a 180, in particular Saul Wilkin, because if you remember, Saul was the one that very courageously went on a live, interrupted Rocky, challenged Rocky, and just blatantly said it, said to Rocky, you took Jay up to the Airbnb, yeah, and you took him up there. And what happened to Saul? Did he get some truth serum pumped into him and suddenly he was, oh no, accident. I shouldn't have said that. This is all a mystery to me. And added to the mystery is it seems to me none of these people will come and have a chat to anyone on our side to just explain the roller coaster ride of their emotions and their thoughts that has brought them to the conclusion that Jay must have died by accident and there was no foul play involved. I mean, in that sense, I don't see how difficult a conversation it would be. It would be, Saul, Aaliyah, just tell us how you went from early doors, Jay must have been taken, to I'm now convinced it was all an accident. Just tell us stage by stage how you came to those conclusions. But I don't think we'll ever have that. And you can guess why. It may be that these friends are so shite scared of talking about such things because they know or they suspect that someone higher up in the chain of command of the gang, if you like, would disapprove of what they are saying. Maybe that is the situation. I really don't know. But something is not adding up with this situation at all in my book. All right, so that is the chosen background, the friends. But the subject of this video would be going back to Lucy's Sky TV phone call interview. And I guess if you really want to follow what I'm saying in this video, you should re-listen to that interview. Lucy May Gregory Law on the phone, interviewed by Sky TV. Um, and of course, there are a lot of inconsistencies there, but I want to look into the possibility because I, and probably you, have assumed that even though Jay's three friends, Brad, Brandon, and Lucy, all had a screenshot of Jay's last known location, not one of them actually went to that last known location to check to see if Jay was there and to rescue him. I mean, I've been assuming that for quite some time. But let us now step back and have a look if there's any evidence or any red flags that would suggest we might have got that wrong. Is it possible that one of them, any one of them, all of them did actually go to the last known location, Jay's last known location? You see, the problem here is we don't actually know that. And I don't think we should assume that they did not go there. I don't believe anyone has examined the phone log, the phone call details of any of the friends. In fact, when Lucy was talking to, I believe it was, um, who was it now? I've forgotten. She was talking to one of the content creators, and she confessed that she had deleted a lot of calls. I don't think it was Mariana. I can't remember who that was now. Haley Comet, I think it was. So, yeah, Lucy got rid of a lot of evidence. I don't think Brad or Brandon's phone was ever examined. So we don't actually know if any of the friends' phone was pinging away up in the same location, but a little later in the morning as Jay's phone. We don't know that. Is there any hint that, for example, Lucy might have gone up there? I mean, yeah, I think there is. There are a few hints, and this is why I want to go back to that initial Sky TV telephone interview. When Lucy is speaking in that interview, she says a number of things. In my notes here, one thing she says that she says 8:30 in the morning, Jay's phone was at 1%. And she says that Jay said that 8:30 in the morning, but Jay's phone cut off at 8:51 a.m. And between the 1% at 8:30 and it cutting off at 8:51, Jay is screenshotting and doing video, face call, FaceTimes, and all this kind of stuff. His phone is hyper active for that 20 minutes, all on 1%. So I think we all agree that's not possible. And I believe DCI Higson has stated when it goes from 3% to 2% to 1%. So when Lucy says spoke to him at 8:30 and he's on 1%, that's wrong. Now, if Lucy mistook the time, she said 8:30, she meant 8:50, so be it. But like I say, she's had plenty of time to correct the record on this. And it's very easy to check your own call log to double check. But Lucy's never corrected anything. She's never gone out and said, "Let me set this straight." To me, she's either lied or put out misinformation and then just let it be. I don't know. Maybe that's why she didn't go to the funeral wake. She just wasn't welcome because her story was all over the place, and even Debbie couldn't figure it out. I don't know. Another thing she says in that Sky TV interview, she says about Jay, he sent over a screenshot of his last known location. So I went straight, and this is where she's describing kind of minute by minute what actually happened. And it sounds to me like she's about to tell the Sky TV guy that she went straight there because she cuts herself off. Again, she says about Jay, he sent over a screenshot of his last known location. So I went straight. And she pauses. She doesn't say there. She starts again. She says, the first thing I did when the phone cut off, and she goes on about calling the police. So I don't know. When someone starts a sentence with talking about the last known location, I went straight, the next word is going to be there in her head, I would think. Does that mean she did go straight there? Did she have a taxi driver that took her straight there? Did she have Lena Patel on standby and go straight there? Did she go there and see, I don't know, Jay dead? Call the cleanup squad? I don't know. Did she go there and not see anything of Jay at all and just leave there? But then for some reason decided not to tell anyone. This is all very odd. But I go back to my initial point. We should not assume that Lucy did not go straight there. She almost says that she did. But we've got to be careful with this Sky TV telephone interview. Marvin at Streamline Entertainment has already covered this. It does seem that Lucy's all over the place. She also says in that interview, they told me, this is about the police, they told me that they'd sent a helicopter out. Either lost in translation or Lucy is lying. Lucy's great paternal chum, El Slugtardo Ivor Lovelace, yeah, looking good gal, you're bossing it, or whatever. Yeah, his little gal Lucy. Well, Luggy would tell his little gal Lucy, people don't just get in a helicopter and fly off to look for someone because some dopey 18-year-old says my best friend is missing. It doesn't happen like that, does it, Luggy? What didn't you lecture us, Luggy, on how a helicopter has to be prepared 24 hours in advance for all this kind of stuff? No, Lucy's wrong. They didn't send a helicopter out as soon as she went to the police station and said my friend is missing. That didn't happen. But why Lucy would tell this whopper and hope that we'd believe it, or how Lucy got totally confused, lost in translation, I don't know. But if Lucy's so dreadfully wrong about the helicopter being sent out like immediately, then we could probably assume she's probably lying about going straight there to where Jay was. But again, I can only report what she said. Ironically, all of the accident group, every single one of them, whether you're talking about Thomas the Wanker, Gobshite from Glasgow, Bea Mondo, the ironing board, Melissa running out of runway, all of them know the answers to this. This is the bizarre thing. They can tell us everything every question I'm throwing out there now. All of those people can tell us the answer. How do we know that? Because they are in communication and they get, I would imagine, all the answers from the person that knows. Ivor Lovelace and the other person that knows, Chris Pennington. Ivor, Chris, Facebook friends with Lucy. They all know the truth or what Lucy has told them. Presumably, the accident group have all found out, curious people that they are. They've all asked Lugisa what actually happened. The conspiracy of silence must surely be contained within the walls of the accident group. We are the only ones that don't know these answers. So it's a bit funny when they say we're trolling. Surely they are trolling. They know the answers, but they're playing with us, saying, you don't know, you're not going to find out, we're going to silence you. So I just want to point out, after 2 years or so, we're only here still because the accident group won't tell us what they know. That's okay. You guys can keep it a secret. That's your choice. But you can't expect us to shut up just because you won't tell us what the answers are. We're going to keep going. And maybe one day one of you will, at a drunken moment, just confess you know what happened because Luggy told you. Yeah. And then in this same interview, Lucy says, so we'd come up there. There was literally no sign of him. Again, she basically tells us, whether we believe it or not, that she did go up there, but she said we. So we'd come up there. There was no sign of him. Now that could be Lena Patel. Well, it could be Brad and Brandon. Who's this we? Lucy starts off with I, and then she switches to we. Let's assume for the sake of argument it's Lena Patel. Yeah. So, yeah, we'd come up there. There was literally no sign of him. Now, if that's true, do you think we that's Lena and Lucy, went up there to Jay's last known location, saw him or didn't see him, and then went back to the Airbnb to talk to Ayub. That kind of make more sense to me. But again, the question arises, why do that if this is all an accident, and then not mention to anyone that you actually did go to his last known location? Because this is invaluable information. So let me raise another question here. When Lucy was speaking to the police, first of all, she's on the phone immediately. Remember, immediately after Jay's phone dies, she's got a screenshot, but she gets on the phone to the police, she says, to report him missing. Does she on the phone at that moment tell the Guardia Civil that she has a screenshot of Jay's last known location? Does she say that, or does she hide that fact? Because she would almost certainly be asked that. Do you know where was his last known location? Do you know that? If Lucy was not asked that question in that initial phone call to the police, then the police are so incompetent they don't know what they're doing. It is the most basic question to ask. Do you know where his phone was, where he was when this conversation happened and the phone cut off? I would assume the police asked her that question and Lucy lied. I can't imagine she said, yes, I've got his location. I can send that to you. I know exactly where he is. I think Lucy lied. I think she was asked that and said, I don't know. And only in the fullness of time, or a few hours later, did it emerge that she did have that. I told you, I said, this issue of the dying phone and the last known location is the thing that eventually will hang these people. Well, not literally, but it will be the issue that catches them out. Of course, if there had been an investigation, they would have already been caught out on this. But eventually, I think it's this issue that will catch them out. So bear with me on this. That first phone call, I think Lucy is asked, do you know his last known location? And Lucy lies. Now, when she actually goes in person to the police station, is she then asked that same question and she lies again? I think so. I think so. Because in that police report, I'm talking about the one from Icod de los Vinos, where we think she goes with Ayub. In that police report, it is not mentioned at all. And it's very strange that it isn't. Again, if Lucy had been asked, do you have any idea? Do you have any record on your phone? Does it show where his last known location was? You think Lucy has lied there and said, I don't know, I don't have anything, I have no idea. Again, if the police are that incompetent that they asked her that, she showed them the last known location and declared it. And then the police and Lucy are still shrugging their shoulders saying, well, let's not bother going there. That doesn't make any sense either. So my feeling is Lucy has refused to share this screenshot information for whatever reason. In her first phone call, in going to the Policía, Guardia Civil, well, she says she went to the one in Playa de las Americas, and then again, presumably with Ayub and Lena Patel in tow, she's done the same thing at Ecod. Maybe. So now the next question is, at what point does Lucy tell the interested parties, the authorities, the Guardia Civil, and Debbie Duncan, that she does have that screenshot, that she did know all along where Jay's last known location was? When does that very embarrassing, incriminating information come out? Do you think when at 3:30 in the afternoon, Lucy makes that phone call to Debbie Duncan, do you think in that phone call she tells Debbie that she does know exactly where Jay's last known location was? Is it in that phone call that she tells Debbie that? I'm not sure. I don't think so even then. That 3:30 phone call. Let us switch in trying to answer this. When does Debbie find out that Lucy had Jay's last known location? Let's switch to what Debbie says when she is talking to the operator. I take you back to the documentary now. And they reenact that whole conversation, Debbie Duncan and the Lancashire police operator, as Debbie Duncan is reporting Jay missing after Lucy has spoken to Debbie Duncan. And what Debbie says is, talking about Jay's location, he's being located as miles and miles away from where he was staying, up a bloomin' mountain. Now, just as the Guardia Civil would have done, the Lancashire police operator asks immediately about that last known location and how Debbie knows that. Because the operator says, let's take this word for word very slowly. Operator says, did you say he's been located? Is that on his phone location? So the Lancashire police officer here is no slouch. She's right on the money. She heard Debbie Duncan say he's been located. That's miles and miles away from blah, blah, blah. He's been located, Debbie said. So if I guess if Debbie's there saying he's been located, does that mean Lucy did tell Debbie that she had Jay's last known location, or is Debbie just talking generally because Lucy said he's gone up to the mountains, he's gone missing there? He's been located as miles and miles away from where he was staying. That could be Debbie just saying, yeah, I know where he's gone missing, but I don't know exactly his last known location. It's a grey area with that one. But let us go back. Operator, did you say he's been located? Is that on his phone location? It's a yes or no question. It's either yes, as per his phone location, yeah, as reported to me by his friend who spoke to him and got a screenshot of his last known location. His phone is telling us exactly where he was. That's yes or no there. But it's curious, Debbie doesn't actually answer that question. I would like to know why. Accident group, you already know this because Luggy's told you. Yeah? Lucy has told Luggy. Luggy's told you. We're the only ones in the dark here. Debbie doesn't answer the question. She says, oh, he rang early hours this morning. No one asked you, Debbie, when he rang. The question the operator asked was, did you say he's been located? And is that on his phone location? But Debbie says he rang early hours this morning. He said his phone were 1%. Again, Debbie, you weren't asked about the percentage of his battery charge. He was on his own. You weren't asked how many people were with him. He didn't know where he was. You weren't asked if he knew where he was. And he were in the middle of mountains. None of what Debbie says there answers the question, did you say he's been located? Is that on his phone location? Now, why is it that Debbie has refused to answer that and deflected somewhat to a whole load of stuff that isn't pertaining to where exactly Jay was located when his phone died? Is Debbie refusing to deal with this subject because she knows that last known location would give away whatever happened? Or is she in the dark? She just doesn't know because Lucy hasn't told her. Debbie goes on. She says, so they found this place, knocked on the door, and there's two English lads there. So I guess this is the moment where Lena Patel and Lucy find the Airbnb because it's switched to they. They found this place. Now, the operator, I don't know if the operator did this because the documentary is a reenactment, but did the operator say, who's they? Who are these they people that are trying to find your son? It sounds from that answer to me that Debbie she wasn't told by Lucy that Lucy knew of Jay's last known location and that Lucy went up there. Let's listen to what Debbie says again. So they found this place, knocked on the door, and there's two English lads there. Yeah, it sounds to me like Debbie hasn't been told a whole lot. So we get back to the question. When did Debbie Duncan find out that Lucy and Brad and Brandon had the last known location, Jay's last known location on their phones? It seems to me that when Debbie's talking to the Lancashire operator, she doesn't know that Lucy had that information. When does she find that out? I'm going to suggest it's later in the day. I'm going to suggest at 3:30 when that shocker, absolute shocker of a phone call from Lucy comes to Debbie Duncan. That Debbie obviously doesn't really know how to think through all this. As she said, her legs turned to jelly, and she didn't know how to process all this. Yeah, I get that. But at some point, Debbie's going to have to learn that the three friends knew exactly Jay's last known location. And Debbie does throw out there regarding Lucy, I just wish she'd gone to rescue or to get Jay. But when does she find that out? Now, what I'm going to do here is tie in an event that happens later that day and suggest that maybe that is connected with when the Lancashire police and Debbie Duncan found out about Lucy having Jay's last known location. Because we go back to that 2:30 in the morning knock at the door, where we've been told by Andy Watson, yeah, Debbie's partner, or maybe husband, I don't know, Jay's stepdad. Yeah, I think they got married. Anyway, Andy, he said that at 2:30 police came knocking at the door and told Debbie to get over to Tenerife. Now, we've always said in our community that doesn't sound right. You know, Jay's been reported missing. Okay. And then the police in the middle of the night come and say, our recommendation is you fly to Tenerife. Why? What do you know suddenly that has changed this story? What brings you to tell Debbie what she should or shouldn't do for a missing person case? I've always thought that 2:30 knock on the door is a lot more serious than we think it's a good idea you fly to Tenerife. Just saying. I would have thought that 2:30 knock on the door, I've suggested this before, is either we've been sent some kind of convincing evidence from Spain that this could be hostage situation, kidnapping, you need to get over there. Could be that. Or it could be, could it not, that Lancashire police have found out that Lucy and possibly Brad and Brandon all had Jay's last known location on their phones, knew about it, and did nothing. So maybe the police came out at 2:30 and said, there's something very off about this, that Jay's friends are not forthcoming with very important details about Jay's final hours. We think you need to go to Tenerife to find out what's going on. That would make a whole lot more sense than knock, knock, knock. Sorry to disturb you in the middle of the night. Don't you think you should fly to Tenerife on the next flight? Now, I don't know what was that 2:30 conversation. I really don't think it was, hi, I'm PC Plod. Don't you think it's a good idea you fly out to Tenerife? I really do think it was something along the lines of, based on what we've been sent from Spain, based on what we've been told, based on what we've just found out, there's more to this than he just went missing. Just saying, that makes more sense. But I still haven't ventured an answer to when Debbie finds out. Maybe it's then 2:30 in the morning, and PC Plod says, yeah, you might not have been told this at 3:30 in the afternoon, but it seems like the friends knew exactly where Jay was when his phone cut off, which implies some kind of cover up, which implies you need to go out there. What we do know, I mentioned this earlier, was that it looked like Lucy and Brandon were not in the wake. If you remember the scenes of Debbie and Saul dancing together and the music going, and looked like a real shindig. And it looked like Brandon and Lucy were not there. And I'm wondering to this day if Debbie and Lucy never spoke to each other again after the moment when Debbie found out that Lucy had Jay's location, last known location, all that time and did nothing. Or went there, saw what she saw, and did nothing. Now, let's just muse a little bit on the missing time here, because Lucy has a big chunk of time missing time, because she says she went up to the Airbnb midday-ish with Lena Patel, right? But she called Debbie Duncan at 3:30. That's a big chunk of time. She also said in that Sky TV interview, if I can find it, something about driving around all day. What does she say there? I can't find that now. But surely you remember that. She says something like, yeah, we come up there and we were driving around all day, didn't see him, didn't see anything. I wonder if that was true or not. Where would you drive around up there? There's that one road. You're going to drive up and down that one road? Because it's only one road and several paths, logically, you've got its last known location. Once you've driven up and down that road, and gone up to Buena Vista and all the way back, there's not a lot to do. I mean, when she says driving around the roads up there, there's only one road. I don't think that's true. I think that's made up too. So what did she do? Well, she spoke to Ayub, spoke to Ophelia, but that can't have lasted that long. What was she doing? Let's say that whole conversation with Ayub and Ophelia went on till 1 o'clock. What's she doing between 1 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 3:30? We got 2.5 hours there where Lucy apparently is up there, yeah, at Minska. What is she doing all that time? And how is it that she gets to 3:30 and says now is the right moment to call Debbie? Not before or not later, but I'd better do it now. Lucy's missing time then stretches way beyond that phone call. Once she's called Debbie, what is she doing all the time? Yeah, she goes to Ecod police station to make yet another missing persons report, apparently, according to Felix Rios and the Spanish team that looked into her statements. But then again, Ecod isn't that far away. You go in, you make your statement. There's still hours on Lucy's plate here. Is this when she starts creating the missing person post with the missing person information? Yeah, I guess so. But it is frustrating. We don't have a very clear timeline from Lucy on this. And this is where Mark Williams Thomas, I assume he didn't do it. He didn't find out from Lucy, Brad, and Brandon hour by hour where they are, what are they doing with what objective. That would have been so useful. If Mark Williams Thomas did do that, then he never told us. But it is a very basic step to take. So, Lucy, take me through this from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2. Go through every hour of that Monday when Jay went missing. Where were you? What were you doing? What was the objective? Who was with you? As one of the detectives, I don't know if it was Blexley or Wetton or Neville, one of them said that, you know, in this situation, it is so hard to figure out what is happening in the background. You've got to get these first 24 hours exactly right in order to have any hope of figuring out what was happening before, what happened after. It's that golden hour, that golden period, those 24 hours. And I think it was Blexley that said, the problem here is the Guardia Civil put all their eggs in one basket for whatever reason. They put all their eggs in one basket, and all their eggs were put in the basket of this is a missing person case. Once you've done that, you've blown it. If it's not a missing persons case, or if it's not purely a missing persons case, you can't go back 2 weeks on or 16 days on. It was day 16 when they decided we better go in and do a forensic examination of this Airbnb. You can't go back in time and achieve the same results. My only doubt about this is I can't believe the Guardia Civil would be so inept as to do that. So why did they put all their eggs in one basket? We'll leave that for another video, but spoiler alert, I'm starting to think that that was all about some big cheese up in the Guardia Civil that said, this has to be a missing person case. Because if we start investigating and finding out answers about what's going on in the strip down there, it might jeopardize another investigation. Wasn't it at this time that the big cheese himself, Mo Durba, like the gangster leader, gangland leader of the whole of Tenerife, was being looked into? And I need to check on what's happening to him. I thought he was having a June or July trial in Madrid. I'm just speculating. I'm just saying maybe someone said this has to be missing person case because if we start digging up other stuff, it could ruin what the big prize that we're really after here, Mo Durba and the big boys. Something odd's going on with the Guardia Civil, and something very odd is going on with the people, the accident group that know all the answers, but they just have no interest in letting the world know. Let's leave it there. Hasta luego, hasta la vista, hasta la próxima. See you next time.